It's pretty obvious how much I love this movie. Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. We are The Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And here is our review for The Shape of Water. The Shape of Water is directed by Guillermo del Toro and it stars Sally Hawkins, Michael Shannon, Richard Jenkins, Octavia Spencer, and Doug Jones. The story is set in 1962 and it centers around Eliza, a woman without a voice who works at a government laboratory. When she meets a creature that is a part of a classified experiment, her immediate connection with the creature will change the life that she knew. I've been anticipating this movie ever since I saw the trailer. I think it was during Comic-Con earlier this year. And because I am a big fan of Guillermo del Toro's work, I think he's a fantastic storyteller. I think he's always really passionate about the movie that he makes. And this is, even though it is an original story, like when I first saw the trailer, I couldn't help but think the creature looked almost identical
to Abe Sapien.
So and plus the egg and everything. So, you know, like he ate eggs, right?
Yeah, he actually liked raw eggs in Hellboy.
Sure.
And that was the thing. It was actually really hard to kind of separate the two. I mean, you couldn't really think of one.
Because Hellboy versus like Shape of Water, even though both are by Guillermo del Toro, very different vibe.
Oh, two completely different movies.
Yes.
I mean, nowhere even near kind of related.
Yeah. But this movie, it's a fantastic, I want to almost call it a fairy tale. Mm-hmm. It is so fantastical. It is so magical. And what really captured me was Sally Hawkins, who played Eliza, and she doesn't speak. So she has to use sign language, which is, I feel like always impressive, like whether you know it or you're learning it and you use it in a movie. And I think to be able to portray and be the lead of a story and being able to show your emotion and tell us, the viewers, where the story is going to go without speaking a single word is so impressive. And I think Guillermo also has a very strong cast around her. I mean, Octavia Spencer, Michael Shannon, and Doug Jones, Richard Jenkins, all fantastic, and they really help mold the story around Eliza.
And that was something that was very impressive that Guillermo del Toro was able to do, is to tell this wonderful story and really get you to care about this character that has no lines at all. I mean, there's a little bit of something at the very near the very end, but it's all just her expressing herself, and he did a great job on directing her and directing the cast around her. And something else that Guillermo del Toro does insanely well is just the way everything looks. The visuals, the sets, the costumes, the lighting, everything. He could probably tell an entire story with just set pieces and get you to feel and understand and be able to tell this story with actually absolutely no actors in there.
Yeah.
Just set pieces, and you would get this vibe and this understanding from just the way it looks.
I mean, just the opening of the movie, you want to talk about visions and the visionary effect. I absolutely loved it. It looked like a dream. The whole movie looked like a dream, and I think that's why I wanted to call it a fairy tale. Not only because there is like the mythical creature of the creature.
Yeah.
You know, who is very scientific and unnatural.
Which I have to say though, he looked awesome.
Well, I mean, okay, so
he looked amazing.
Let's segue. That's actually a good segue. Let's segue into the creature in Doug Jones. Doug Jones is a very well-known creature actor. Mm-hmm. We've seen him in like I loved him in Buffy in that one episode of
Hush.
I was like the strangers,
the gentleman.
But they were the gentlemen. Yeah. Obviously as Abe Sapien. He was in our friend Ethan's movie Space Command.
Oh really?
Yes. And I met him. He's the sweetest guy, and just also in a way as a creature actor you don't really speak, so it's all movement, and I think it's just a genius pairing, putting the two of them together.
Yeah, and that was also another amazing thing, is that your two main characters, you're telling a love story, pretty much with these two characters, neither one of them speaks.
Yeah.
How do you build this relationship and this connection without something that so many people rely on to communicate? And he does an amazing job at doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes their love and their connection so much more intimate, I think. But I feel like every good love story, every good fairy tale has a villain. So we're going to talk about Michael Shannon as the villain. Does he not always play like a bad guy?
I mean, in every single movie that I've seen him in, and he
Often.
not just a bad guy, but a creepy ass bad
Yes.
guy. To where in every
does
single
creep me
movie,
out.
he just has this natural knack for being able for you to have just go this. "Ugh."
Yeah, and he
Bad
definitely
guy.
had that effect on me during this movie. I cringed because of his character, how just vile and disgusting his character is, and I hated him so much. And I feel like, and I appreciate when a performer can bring that much emotion out of their viewers, because
Yeah.
I feel like when I hate a villain that much, where I wish I could reach through the screen and punch his face, I think they're obviously, as actors, doing their job. But it's a well-written character because he has layers.
Yeah, he
It's not
does.
he's just bad. He's not just bad because he's mean and he's, you know, the leader of this. He's calling the shots at this operation and doing experiments on the creature. Like, there's you kind of see where he gets it from in his home life, who he is at home and who he is at work,
Yeah.
and how he interacts with certain people. But all in all, he's just a vile person.
But they also give him a little bit more depth too, because you kind of see him trying to have this kind of life, and it's just not working out for him. So you can see this struggle with it makes him worse in the situation that he's in, the personality that he has, and how everything's going just not the way he wants it to go.
This movie moved so well for me. Like, it's just like a really clean, precise way of telling a story. So you have like first act, which is introductions. We are introduced to Eliza, where she works, who she is, her life, very regimented, very routine. Every single day, and she doesn't have a lot of friends. She has two friends. She has Richard Jenkins, and then she has Octavia Spencer, who is like her coworker slash, I would call her like the BFF.
Yeah.
And watching their relationship is great because they kind of stick up for each other, and they have this really funny way of interacting because, you know, obviously a lot of the times Octavia Spencer's character will have to translate for Eliza.
Yeah.
And just kind of sometimes what she says and what she doesn't say, like she kind of tells half-truths sometimes.
And it's also really funny because she's
People
the
don't
one who
understand.
constantly talks.
Yeah.
So since Eliza can't talk, Octavia Spencer is the one who just, keeps on talking for both of them.
God, I love this whole cast so much. And with the second act, that's when you kind of bring in the conflict. So you enter the creature and you see the awful things that they do to him and experiment. And when you see Eliza realizes that, she's like, I gotta get him out. And that just propels us into the third act and what I won't spoil it, but what they attempt to do from there on. And it continues building up and up and up until the end. And I am even just up to the end, I was so completely satisfied. I had tears in my eyes. I laughed. I absolutely love this movie, you guys.
And they kept you dangling a little bit at the end. You're kind of like, what's going to happen? I really didn't see what was going. It wasn't very 100% predictable. But what you were saying about some of the transitions, there's a point in this movie to where it kind of starts off as looking like an everyday kind of story. Like it's going to be a little bit more realistic of a Guillermo del Toro kind of movie. But then it makes this shift to where it makes it a lot more fantasy. Where it makes it a lot... Things become a little bit more unrealistic, and honestly, I had a little bit of trouble with the transition at first, but then you get right back into the world. So there's going to be that sudden little shift, I personally think, around the not the climax, but around the second to third act.
I also want to touch on the soundtrack. I love that I actually have the soundtrack playing on my Spotify and in my car. I am right now completely obsessed with it. It's just so good, and it's kind of calming. It's got you guys got to check it out on Spotify. It's so good. But there's one, I know you like, I love this movie obviously. Like I wouldn't shut up about it after we watched it. Like I was ready to watch it again and again. But there was one thing I really didn't like, and it's minuscule about the movie, is you guys know how I really don't like unnecessary characters, just to kind of like for the purpose of, what do you call that?
Kind of plot subplots.
Yeah, but this wasn't. It really didn't even serve the purpose, and I think they were trying to build this one scientist's character, his backstory, and honestly, it didn't need it. It wouldn't have derived from the main story at all. He still would have been really relevant in the whole storyline, and I felt like every time we got kind of dragged away into his backstory and his relationship with the other people, that's kind of when I felt a little bored.
I actually felt the exact same way too. I was kind of like, they really could have done what his character did in a much smaller, a little bit more behind the scenes kind of character, to where you didn't really need to flush him out.
Did not need it at all.
He could have just done what he did, and then put his character to the side, kind of thing. Yeah. But they, for some reason, wanted to flush it out a little bit more, and I found it unnecessary. There's also...
It's pretty obvious how much I love this movie. Even with the dislike, it's so minuscule. I am ready to own the DVD, the soundtrack, and whatever else, The Shape of Water, like any marketing material. Like I want it all. It's so great. Obviously, I am giving this movie catch it opening night. I think everybody, please go and experience this movie. I feel like this is a true movie-going experience where you can lose yourself in the theater. I was so caught up in the story. When things happen, I was like, I had those reactions where you gasp, and you know it's like, it's just a movie. It's a work of art. It's a work of fiction. But I was so emotionally invested, and I think that's a fantastic thing.
And I like the movie too. I don't think I liked it as much as you did, but I'm going to give it a check it out. I really think this movie, just the visuals, the story, and just the feel that you have from this movie is worth going and checking out in the theaters.
Well, you guys, that's it for this review. Let us know in the comment section below if you will check out The Shape of Water, and also let us know what is your favorite work by Guillermo del Toro. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, check out our Patreon if you can, and we'll see you in the next video.